Francis Ngannou just shocked the combat sports world with his insane upset victory over the boxing heavyweight lineal champion of the world. Wait, never mind, I'm hearing he got absolutely robbed. Alright, so to recap the fight briefly, Francis Ngannou going into the fight was totally counted out. He was a plus 750 underdog, and by the end of the fight, he was the favorite. That's what happened here. He decided to go out there like his name was Sean Strickland fighting Israel Adesanya. Crazy performance. No one was expecting it. He pretty much went out there and straight up made boxing look like a joke. You've never done a professional boxing match in your life, and you go toe-to-toe and arguably beat the lineal heavyweight champion in boxing. That's not a good look for boxing, okay? But, pretty much the best way to recap the fight is that Fury overall, yes, is still the better, technical, faster boxer. However, Ngannou was consistently landing the harder and more damaging shots, including a massive knockdown that's created a now iconic image in the third round. But the decision, clearly we had some Stevie Wonder looking judges. Well, they clearly weren't looking at the ring at least. One of the judges scored a 96-93. That is like some Valentina Shevchenko, Alexa Grasso 2 type scoring in the 5th round, if you know what I'm saying. Atrocious scorecard there. The other two, I think, are actually quite reasonable, okay? I had to say robbery to get you to click. Again, it was a close fight. I think Ngannou won, but I'm not necessarily saying it was a straight-up robbery. With the other two judges, I think, giving much more reasonable scorecards, one of them being 95-94 Ngannou, and the other 95-94 Fury. I was kind of expecting that last scorecard to maybe be a draw. I was actually thinking that was what I was thinking when I got to the end of the fight. I was thinking they were going to do a draw, and then they were going to announce number 2 to do even more pay-per-view buys. Hype it up a whole lot. Now that people know it would actually be a competitive fight. Now, everyone on Twitter is absolutely saying it's a robbery. I'll pop up some tweets on screen here, and can you necessarily disagree with them? The big image that came out of this fight was Tyson Fury flat on his ass. Obviously, people are going to say robbery, especially with how well Ngannou showed up, Overall, I just think this looked really bad on Tyson Fury and great on Francis Ngannou. Even if he didn't necessarily win on the scorecards, this is absolutely a moral victory for Ngannou, especially when you consider, MMA fighters often haven't been doing amazingly in boxing. You could argue he's already the best MMA fighter in boxing. Jake Paul has done better against former UFC champions than Tyson Fury did here, so, as I said earlier, Francis Ngannou made heavyweight boxing look like an absolute joke. And so, even if he didn't win on the scorecards, that's why it's absolutely a moral victory. Now, I bet because of this, Dana White is absolutely fuming. He is coping and seething so hard right now. I wish I could see it, okay? Because I'm sure it was like, oh yeah, we lost Ngannou, but guess what? He's the singular fighter, and we are the UFC. He's gonna fade off into obscurity. No big deal. But now people are talking about him, doing a rematch with Tyson Fury, and potentially becoming like a literal boxing champion, because perhaps after this fight, because it was so close, he goes and challenges a different boxing champion, because, there's like the 4 main belts, and then after he wins that, and say Tyson Fury wins his next fight, do you bring them back together at some point late next year to then do a rematch against each other? I think that's totally possible, and in that case, I might even have to go with Francis Ngannou winning that fight, which would be absolutely insane. How would Dana White feel if he got into a pay dispute with a fighter, and now that fighter is the next lineal heavyweight boxing champion in the world? Absolutely crazy. Because, more champions could force the UFC to pay them more, or they say, hey, I'm going to go my own way, like, Francis Ngannou did. And now Dana's like, damn, you're right. Francis Ngannou did do that successfully. I don't want you doing that too. Here's some more money. Or even besides that, even if champions don't think that, I'm sure just to Dana, it's an embarrassment that he, fumbled the bag here with now someone who is clearly going to be a massive star in the boxing world. I know he does technically have a deal with the PFL, but I think at this point more people seem to be excited for Francis Ngannou's future in boxing, since I don't think anyone really cares to see him beat up cans in the PFL. I think everyone wants to see him fight big-name boxers, and I agree with that. Maybe he fights on the next PFL season before returning to boxing and doing something like that. I think that could work. All in all, I think we can say Francis Ngannou is officially the baddest man on the planet. Now, will boxing fans finally admit MMA is superior? No.